Hey YouTube, today I wanted to bring you all a short video on a recent killing, and that's the murder of 46-year-old schoolteacher Elvia Espinosa. Elvia lost her life in the most brutal of ways, and it was taken by an almost unthinkable person, her own 21-year-old son. I wanted to bring you guys a quick case summary today, as well as some other similar cases in recent history. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Blue, and I'm a police officer in Florida with 10 years of experience. We tend to see cases like this every so often, that just shock the senses with how outrageously evil they are, and have no apparent motive. With so much talk in the media of prevention, I think it will be good to highlight this case, as well as some others, to prove that sometimes you just can't prevent evil people from doing evil things. Let's start with a quick case background and summarization. Elvia Espinosa was a second grade teacher at Ben Hill Griffin Elementary School in Polk County. Elvia was the kind of loving mother who would text her children daily, and she was always involved in their lives, supporting them. The kind of mother who would gladly, and repeatedly, move from school to school as a teacher just to be near her children. On Saturday, April 6th, Elvia spoke to her son, 21-year-old college student Emmanuel Espinoza, or Manny as she affectionately referred to him as. You see, Emmanuel was a pre-med college student and attended the University of Florida. Emmanuel, as it turns out, was exceptionally gifted and bright, having graduated at the top of his class in high school. By all accounts, he was a great student and son. But this past Saturday, Elvia would text him and ask him if she could come up to see him in Gainesville, as she hadn't seen him in a while. But Emmanuel instead told her that he was in town visiting his grandfather and said he would come to visit her. Elvia, who was understandably excited by the news, told him to stay at her house, which he accepted. For those who do not know this story, the next part is hard to hear, so be warned. Emmanuel would arrive at Elvia's house and knock on her door. Footage from a Ring camera later on would show that Emmanuel walked up to Elvia's house with a knife hidden behind his back, a horrifying revelation. Elvia then opened the door, naturally overjoyed to see her son, who she dearly loved. At this time, she was on the phone with one of Emmanuel's brothers, and she even remarked to him, "I think Manny's here," at the sound of his knock. The moment she opened the door, Emmanuel attacked her, rushed inside, and stabbed her repeatedly. I want you all to understand just how brutal this attack was. Emmanuel stabbed this poor woman, his own mother, over 70 times. That's 70 times. If you have a hard time imagining that, or it doesn't sound like a lot to you, just try to punch something 70 times and count it out. Now imagine, Emmanuel did this full force, repeatedly, while his mother would try to defend herself from the attack. During this attack, we're told that she screamed his name, Manny, repeatedly. I can't imagine the betrayal, the heartbreak, the confusion this poor woman must have felt in her final moments. It would later be revealed that during the attack, Emmanuel was playing the song No Church in the Wild by Jay-Z and Kanye West in his AirPods. I can only imagine that this perhaps was to cover the sound of his mother's screams, or perhaps this is just what he used to psych himself up. In either event, after the attack, Emmanuel realized that he had cut his own hand on his knife and began to clean the wound. He would even tell investigators that he wanted to ask his mom for Neosporin at this time, and then realized that she wouldn't answer, as he had just killed her. As a police officer myself, there is only one word that comes to mind when you investigate a murder where the victim was stabbed this many times: rage. And having handled these calls myself, with the person stabbed dozens and dozens of times, the same emotion, rage, always comes through. Now the media is claiming that he used his pre-med training to kill his mother. A claim made because Emmanuel told investigators that because of his biology class, he knew how to stab her in and around her heart to ensure she bled out. This is just the media being extra, as you could stab anyone 70 times and kill them. Any scrub knows that getting stabbed in the heart is fatal, and it doesn't take a biology class to learn that. So let's ask the million-dollar question. Why? Why would Emmanuel do something like this? We all always have our theories when stories like this come out. Was it revenge for an abusive childhood? A desire for money, like inheritance or life insurance? Had mom just found out a terrible secret of his? Was Emmanuel maybe on drugs? Maybe he was just crazy. Well, the Polk County Sheriff's Office did a fantastic job of looking into this and being transparent, as they often do. And they found no motive, nor did Emmanuel really provide one, at least not one that would satisfy the question. Emmanuel had no motive for money or inheritance. He was not lying about college, and he was a good student. There is absolutely zero indication of Elvia having been anything but an incredible and loving mother. There's no big secret of Emmanuel's that was discovered. No indication of drugs, and zero history of any kind of mental illness, with no history of bake racks. A search of his dorm room even turned up no evidence that this attack was planned out. So then the question remains, why? What drove him to this? Well, in his own words, Emmanuel claimed to simply have a desire to kill his mother, a desire he says he has had for a long time. He told detectives that he decided to kill his mother while driving down from Gainesville, and that she got on his nerves. Listen to how he sounds, just minutes after brutally murdering his mother on this 911 call.
Hello? Yes, tell me exactly what happened.
I killed someone.
Okay, I've got help on the way. Stay on the line. What? Stay on the line with me, okay? I've got help on the way for you, okay? Okay, sir. Okay, I want you, yes, sir, I want you to take everything out of your pockets, and I want you to keep your hands out of your pockets, okay?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay, how did this happen?
I opened the door and I stabbed my mom.
That's right, you just heard Emmanuel call and confess, claiming to have stabbed his mother. Note that he does not appear to have any delusions. He sounds pretty calm, and is able to articulate exactly what he did, and he's able to listen to the instructions from the dispatcher. But even knowing all of this, we're all still left wondering why. The answer, as I believe it, is this. Some people are just evil. I'm not the first, and I won't be the last to conclude this. And yes, in some cases, people are quick to write off killers as simply evil. But in the absence of any sort of evidence or motive for the attack, with a mother that Emmanuel himself told detectives that he loved, and with no warning signs or mental illness to blame, what else can we do but conclude that Emmanuel is an evil man? As a cop, I have met men like Emmanuel before. They're not always heinous killers, but they are often men who have no remorse and don't need a reason to commit crimes. Think about this. Not only was this throwing his entire life away, as he made no attempt and had no plans to cover the crime up, but what was he going to gain? As we've discussed, he stood to inherit nothing, at least nothing substantial. This wasn't revenge. He gained nothing and he lost everything, and yet still he did it. Emmanuel knows right from wrong. He wanted to be successful in life and chose a career that is founded on helping others. And he wasn't just curious about murder. He wanted to murder his mother specifically, and had for several years. So again I say, some men are just evil. And that's an important point, because we often talk about prevention. When we see a tragedy, like Sandy Hook for instance, we try to look back and see where it all went wrong. But in some cases, there are no laws, no mental hospitals, no therapies, nothing that could have stopped this. Something like this, it's a sickness of the heart. Something we don't understand, and honestly, probably something we can't prevent. Take a look at these examples. On September 7th, 2022, Ezekiel Kelly went on a rampage in Memphis, Tennessee, murdering 4 people among other crimes, which were broadcast on Facebook Live. There was no real discernible motive for these shootings, even though they were preventable, had Kelly not been released from prison after only 11 months after an attempted murder charge. We'll cover that in a future video. In Dallas, a former anesthesiologist, Reynaldo Ortiz, is on trial for tampering with patients' IV bags, leading to 11 patients suffering cardiac events and also resulting in the death of a fellow doctor. The only motive we can find seems to be to just spread as much harm and chaos as possible. No monetary gain, no future plan, no nothing. Consider serial killers like Israel Keys, who over a span of more than a decade killed anywhere from 11 to 20 people, while also committing multiple robberies, arsons, rapes, and burglaries. There just seems to be no end to these horrific cases of betrayal and mass murder. They just seem to go on and on and on. Now, some would say that you need to carry a gun to keep yourself safe, which is something I 100% endorse. But would that have helped Elvia? Who would expect to fall victim to their own son? One who they love, one who has a bright future, and one who you've never had any problems with. It's scary to think someone can be so evil, and those closest to them never even knew it. This often seems to be the case with serial killers and mass shooters. How many interviews have we all seen where neighbors and coworkers talk about how quiet the person was, how they always seemed like a nice person, a good neighbor, and so on. Now overall, we have a lot of work to do to combat crime, and we also have a lot of work to do to make our country a better place. But some things you can't predict. Sometimes there's just no policy, no law, no awareness campaign, nothing that could ever stop people like Emmanuel from just snapping. All we can do now is pray for the family and donate if a GoFundMe is announced to help with funeral and other costs. And we have to wait for whatever hollow form of justice is handed down to Emmanuel for what it's worth. But that's all for today, guys. Just wanted to share my thoughts on the case with you. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Maybe he had some secret motive that the police just haven't discovered yet? Or what do you guys think drove him to this? Also, if any one of you know if a GoFundMe is made for Elvia, let me know in the comments and I'll pin the link there myself. Also, if you're new here, consider subscribing. I post weekly and we cover all things true crime related. And as always, guys, stay tuned and stay safe.